When I looked back to figure out how I raised my prices by 90 plus percent and still maintained 95% of my customers and 100% of them, even the ones who couldn't stay with me because they couldn't afford it any longer, said, "You 100% deserve this, April." I realized it was because of six core elements I infused into my announcement. Now, this is going to sound silly, but the first element that I think is one of the most important elements in anything you do in your business is what I call. Hi, I'm April Hampton, and I designed my home based dog sitting and daycare business so that I earn well over six figures in sales annually while working less than 30 hours a week. And this is the first home based dog sitting business podcast that shows you how to think, act, and be the top dog CEO from the inside out so that you actually create a dog business you love because it is emotionally, physically, mentally, and financially sustainable. This is the Dog Sitter's House podcast. Welcome back to the Dog Sitter's House podcast. Last week, I talked about how to determine the right price for your dog sitting or dog walking services. So now that you have the price right, let's talk about how to announce your prices properly. How you do it without upsetting your customers or losing all your customers, and do it in a way that still respects your customers. Now, if you're increasing your prices by just a few bucks, then give them a 30-day notice and get on with it. However, if you are raising your prices by $10 or more, you're going to want to deliver the announcement with a little bit more finesse. Now, if raising your rates by $10 or more sounds like crazy pants, then it's a good chance that you are probably underpricing your worth. You see, I've noticed in my coaching that there's a pattern that goes on with dog sitters and dog walkers and people who do dog boarding or daycare at their home, whatever it is you do. If they're raising their prices and they only do it by a few bucks, chances are they're already underpricing their services. Because underpricing our services when we first start out is super common, right? We want to get customers in. We want to be a bargain. We want to start proving ourselves. We don't have a lot of confidence, maybe yet, in the value that we offer. We don't even understand the value that we offer yet. So often we underprice our value, our worth right out of the gate. Once we realize we need to increase our rates, then we realize how much more we really need to increase our rates in order to make a sustainable living and business and pay our bills and the whole nine yards. However, as soon as we come to that realization, all of the fears start flooding in. Fears of overpricing ourselves compared to the market, fear of losing all of our current customers, fear of never getting new customers, fear of people thinking that we're greedy. And all this does is perpetuate the never ending feast or famine and burnout cycle, which never ends well. I can tell you that I see at least 2 to 3 people posting in various groups online every single week how they are giving up their dog sitting or dog walking business because they just can't do it anymore. So if you're only raising your prices by a few bucks, do yourself a favor and go back to my previous episode and have a listen, because that is where I dive deep on how to set your prices the right way so that you don't regret it and have to wait another year or 6 months to raise them. Now, when I had to raise my prices the first time, I realized I had to raise them over 90%. A 90% increase is unheard of, okay? But I knew that if I didn't do that, I would be out of business soon. Then I turned around and raised them another 25% a year later. I've told the story in previous episodes, but in case you didn't hear it, the quick version is I went to see a CPA for the first time and really get everything, standardized and in line and organized and figured out. And I'm so proud because I'm so busy. I'm working my tail off and I lay out all my facts, figures, and stats. And he takes a look at them and says, yeah, you're not gonna be able to stay in business with this rate, with these numbers. I felt sick to my stomach automatically, cried the whole way driving home, and had a huge breakdown, which led to an amazing breakthrough. But before I got to that breakthrough, I remember a tsunami of feelings flooding through my veins of fears around announcing my new prices that were 90% higher. I had visions of my customers saying, yeah, go take a hike, to reviews, like nasty reviews being left about me all over the internet. And deep fears of not being able to pay my bills and having to go back and get a job. Literally, all of this stuff popping around my head like Jiffy Pop in a microwave. Then you take into consideration all of the looks you get and concerning questions you get when you tell your friends and family about the new prices you're going to be announcing soon. And you know the ones that they usually accompany that look that says, are you sure you want to do that? Practically confirming all of your fears. It literally is enough to make you crack and just lower your prices just in case. To which I agree is completely natural. To feel that pull and want to lower your rates to ease the uncertainty. And yet, lowering them only offers temporary relief, perpetuating, keeping you stuck in that cycle of overworked and underpaid, which I think is the cycle you're trying to escape by raising your prices in the first place, right? This keeps you stuck in what I call the juggling dog sitter or juggling dog walker because you end up taking on more than you can physically, mentally, emotionally handle just to make up for the low rates. However, if you know how to raise your rates confidently when raising them significantly, like say $10 or more, then you can do both. You can ease your uncertainty of announcing the new rates and break free from that continuous cycle of being overworked and underpaid. You can break the addiction to hustle because that's what it becomes like, right? When you hustle for so long, for so hard, it almost becomes an addiction. I remember when I broke that cycle, I didn't know what to do with myself. I kept looking at my phone like I expected another customer to message me or uh, another booking or another invoice question or issue or you name it. I just was so addicted to my phone that I couldn't even put it down. It took me a month to get used to having a quiet phone again. So when I looked back to figure out how I raised my prices by 90 plus percent and still maintained 95% of my customers and 100% of them, even the ones who couldn't stay with me because they couldn't afford it any longer, said, you 100% deserve this, April. I realized it was because of 6 core elements I infused into my announcement. Now, this is going to sound silly, but the first element that I think is one of the most important elements in anything you do in your business is what I call universe reverse. It's just a silly little rhyming saying that I came up with because I'm a nerd and I like to rhyme things. So I said, universe reverse every single time I caught myself spiraling into the fear bucket of, oh my God, I'm going to lose all my customers. Everyone's going to think I'm greedy. And I would exchange those thoughts. I would universe reverse. I would reverse the universe and I would replace those thoughts with thoughts of, that's okay. If I lose customers, I will find new ones who value me, who value my service. If I started envisioning all of these negative reviews online, I would universe reverse it, April, and just say, nope, if they have a problem with my new prices and they get upset by it, then I've obviously triggered something in them that they haven't dealt with, and it has nothing to do with me. Or in your case, it has nothing to do with you. And I don't say this to be mean. All of us have things we haven't dealt with. All of us have things that trigger us, and we don't even know why. We don't even realize it sometimes. And that just might be the case for some of those customers out there that get upset by your price increase. Honestly, probably sounds a little woo woo and out there, but the truth is, you have to do this over and over and over again because just telling yourself that once isn't going to make all the fears go away. They keep coming back. They'll keep reminding you of all of the worst case scenarios that could happen. And if you don't train your brain to universe reverse that negative stuff and replace it with things that better serve you and your business and your future goals, then you're never going to get there because that fear is going to take over and consume you and get you to lower your prices just in case. So, whenever you're in doubt, steal my little term and just say universe reverse and replace it with something that serves you better. The second core element to announcing your prices confidently is having a great relationship with money. What do I mean by this? I mean, you have to overcome your relationship with money if it is one of scarcity. If, like myself, if I had not done the work previously to fix my mindset around money, then I would have stayed stuck in the cycle of hard work equals money. Because I grew up with a divorced mom of two of us children and three dogs and like two gerbils, you name all a house full of animals. She ended up getting remarried, but in that time before she got remarried, she was on a single income. My dad didn't make enough money to pay child support, and so she worked two jobs just to make sure we had Christmas presents during that time, those years where she was single. And I learned that money is hard to come by. I learned that you have to work your tail to the bone to make money. And if I hadn't of dealt with those beliefs that I learned at a very early age, I wouldn't have been able to break free from that cycle in my business, in my dog business. I would have just probably just kept working harder, thinking I had to work harder to make more, to succeed. But once you realize that money is just a tool, it is just an exchange for perceived value. It's just a thing that gets circulated. And if you believe like I do, which is money will always gravitate towards those who need it when they need it most, then you can be assured that it's always going to come to you when you need it. That doesn't mean you can just sit back and collect, dollars, but if you're putting in the work, if you're making the effort and you believe that, then you're automatically going to do what it takes to make that happen. Whereas, had I still been living in my scarcity mindset, I would have been behaving in a way that just kept me thinking that money was hard to come by, and I probably never would have raised my prices high enough to make a difference and get me out of that race, that cycle, that feast or famine. And in today's economy, with the prices of everything going sky high on groceries, gas, electric bills, you name it, people are paying a lot more attention to the value that they're exchanging their money for. This is why it's super duper important to include the next three elements that I have for you. The third element I included when announcing my 90+% price increase on my pet sitting services was I shared my story. I shared how I got from point A to point B to where I was at that point. And basically, I shared the realization of how at first I was just doing this because it was something I enjoyed, and how it ended up becoming something that really fit my value system when it came to dogs, which thereby gave the dogs a premium service where they could develop behaviorally within a pack, within their own kind, and become balanced pack members, fulfilling that deep ancestral need that they have and don't often get fulfilled in this domesticated world. The fourth element I included when announcing my rates were going up 90+% was a video. Okay, don't flip out. This doesn't mean you have to create some professional video with, captions and professional lighting and a camera. I didn't have all that yet. I had my cell phone. I had my cell phone and I had daylight, and I stood in front of the window for some daylight. That's all I did. And I just talked about my journey, and I talked about how on this journey, I unraveled that what I was creating, what I had created, was something I didn't even realize I was creating along the way, and how it all benefited the dogs, how I saw the growth of the dogs, how I saw the transformation and the rehabilitation of many dogs that had come through here with us. And of course, I added some visualization into this by taking videos I had already taken of all of my clients' dogs when they're visiting, of them playing, of them, doing something cute, of them getting trained on basic training, of them walking, whatever it was. I edited in over my talking head video in certain sections so that not only could everybody who was a customer already could see all their dogs playing and having fun, but so that they could actually see the story that I was telling unfold before their eyes in live time. Not in live time, but in recorded time. What I'll say about that is it's important that we always make sure we're relaying the benefits of our services to the dog owners, to the pet owners, because when you think about it, they are not here. They are not the ones being walked by you. They are not the ones getting boarding. Yeah, there's benefits to the dog owners, but there's all these benefits to the animals too. And if we're not displaying that on a regular basis, reminding them, the owner, what they're paying for, then they might end up thinking that they're not getting enough for what they're giving. So, by creating a video that shows them exactly what their dog is getting and the benefits of it, and how much their dog is loving being with you, helps to reinforce what it is that they're paying for, reminds them that it's worth it for their fur baby. The fifth core element that I included when raising my prices super high was to do what I call a value evaluation. This means identifying all of the value that you bring your customers. What is the value you have brought since day one? And what is the value you have added since they started working with you or since you last set your prices? If I'd added some new security gates for safety reasons, if I added some enrichment games or agility course, things for them to jump on or climb through or whatever, that is something I did to add to the value that they didn't even pay for until now when I'm raising my prices. So you're basically pointing out how much extra they got since they started working with you and they didn't even pay for it because it's just a bonus since you last changed your prices. Does that make sense? If you rehabilitate dogs, if you help them with any kind of reactivity on leash, all of these things are value that you can list out. So sit down, get a pen and paper, grab a cup of joe, and write out all of these value added benefits, value based benefits that you bring with your service, whether it's for the pet owner or the pet. And don't forget to include all of the tools and supplies and, agility gear, whatever it is. If you get a special dog collar that's like a GPS tracking or something, right? That's huge. Add that in so that they see that you're continuously giving them more value than they even agreed to pay for at first. Chances are you're going to be really surprised at how many benefits, how much value you truly bring to your customers when you do this. The sixth core element to include when announcing your prices kind of goes with number five. After you do the value evaluation, now you take those list of items and you create what I call a value visualizer. This is a tool that I developed to help my customers and my future potential customers see the value in what I offer. And of course, it breaks it down so that they see that there's a lot more value than what they're paying for, making it an easier decision for them to pay premium prices because they see it's a premium service that offers way more than what they're actually paying for. When you spell it out in detail, like the value visualizer template that I have, it makes it so that your customers can see the true value that you offer compared to a big box warehouse or compared to the hobby sitter or dog walker or any other cheap alternative. Now, some might say that's an awful lot to do to justify your pricing. To which I agree. You don't have to justify your prices. Nobody has to justify their prices. You deserve what you're worth, period. And by strategically explaining, showing the value you bring, you proactively address potential concerns and solidify your position as a premium service. I like to take a page out of Dave Ramsey's book. I don't know if you know Dave Ramsey. Most people know who he is by now. I don't agree with everything he says, but what I do agree with is how he speaks about if you have an employer, you have a job, you've been at it for a while, you want a raise, you go into your boss to ask for a raise, you should be able to give your boss some reasons why you deserve that raise. You should be able to point out how you saved the company money or made some processes more efficient. So I look at this as the same thing. You, as a dog sitter, dog walker, dog boarding, daycare, whatever it is you do, you are providing a service in exchange for money, and your customers are paying you to do that. They are paying your paycheck, so to speak, right? So if you want to raise from your customers, Why not go into them and say, hey, here's all the value I've been bringing you all along that I didn't even charge you for, if it's an added value since they signed up? How did you improve their dog's life since they started working with you? Point these things out in a tactful way, and that's going to help remind them why you deserve to earn more. I like to say if you break that juggling dog sitter, dog walker role, that you graduate to the top dog CEO role. And a top dog CEO is a leader. And a leader sees potential pushback ahead of time. They foresee potential issues where their customers could be getting upset, and they take steps to mitigate those issues before they arise. Now, you can't do that 100%, but you can certainly try. And every time you do, it sets you up for more success and things to go a lot smoother. Now, you might be wondering, why not just grandfather in all of your current customers at your current rates and raise your rates for new customers? Which is a really good question because a lot of pet professionals take this route. But think about it. If you have a different rate for different customers, even though they're booking you for the same service, then what does that mean on your invoicing side? Are you going to have to remember that? Do you have to make a special note? Do you have to create extra pricing within your software? However, you do things, either way, it's going to cost you more work. It's going to add more time to your invoicing process or somebody you hired to do the invoicing. So you end up doing more work without earning any more money for all those grandfathered in customers. Not to mention, it opens the door for invoicing mistakes to happen and therefore money to be lost. This is why it is so important to consider with each business decision that you make what that is going to mean for you on the back end. How much extra time or how many more steps will that require of you or your team? Because if you're growing your responsibilities without adding to your bottom line, you'll never get out of the overworked and underpaid cycle. And chances are you're raising your rates to solve that problem, not perpetuate it, right? Now, of course, one of the things you always want to take into consideration is giving your customers at least a 30-day notice of your price increase. More if you can. Like if you can do 60 days, that's even better because you're really just saying, hey, I respect you as a customer and I want to give you time to work this in your budget, giving them compassion for their financial situation. Now, the very last thing I will mention that is worth noting is that to sell your premium service at premium prices, I highly recommend not displaying your prices anywhere or telling your prices to potential customers until the meet and greet. Think of your business like a Mercedes dealership. Mercedes doesn't list their financing options on their commercials, do they? No. And that's because they want to attract serious buyers only and buyers who can actually afford their vehicles. Mercedes customers aren't shopping for a car with affordable monthly payments. They're looking for a quality luxury vehicle that comes with a full maintenance service. They're focused on a premium car and they're already willing to pay a premium price in exchange for that luxury car. This is what you want. If you list your prices on your website or your flyers, or you tell it to people over the phone before they meet you, all you're doing is attracting people who care more about the price. You're attracting used car shoppers versus Mercedes buyers. Now, a lot of pet business owners ask me, what do you say when you get people asking about your prices before they meet you? Which is a really common question you'll get when you don't list your prices publicly. And chances are, if you're like me, you have a variety of prices depending upon what the service is, how often they use it, how long they use it, different varying degrees of maybe behavioral issues that you have to deal with. You could charge more for ones that are more difficult. And so if you do, it's really easy to just say something like, your prices vary depending upon the dog's behavioral needs or the number of nights or days or walks or you name it. I mean, you can just give them the down low on how many different variety of prices you have without giving them the prices, and then explain that this is something you go over when you meet them to make sure they understand it and to make sure that you're quoting them the right price based on their pet's behavioral needs. You can also throw in there that when you meet them, you'll give them the pricing and the cancellation policy because they're going to automatically start nodding their head like, oh, yeah, I want to see that. I want to see the cancellation policy. And this makes it easier for them to be agreeable to the fact that you're going to give them pricing with the cancellation policy the day you meet them. Just a little psychology trick for you to keep in mind. Now, if you get the select few who keep pushing you for a price before getting to experience the value that you bring, you might be thinking, well, maybe I'll just give them a ballpark figure on what my prices are to keep them interested. To which I agree sounds tempting to try and satisfy their immediate request. And by holding firm and reiterating that you have varying prices and it depends on the pet's behavioral needs, and you have a cancellation policy you want to go over at the same time when you meet them, you ensure that you actually attract clients who value your services instead of are just shopping for price, thereby saving yourself time for those who are just looky-loos. The reason you really want to wait to show them or discuss pricing with them until your meet and greet is because you want them to experience you. You want them to experience how trustworthy you are. You want them to get that gut feeling that you're a good person to leave their fur baby with. You want them to actually experience what their dog is going to experience when they're with you, or see the safety measures that you have in place, or the meticulous way that you introduce their dog to new dogs to keep them from fighting. They need to see you in action, how you handle animals that you don't know very well. When I conduct a meet and greet, from the moment they step into my gate, I am telling the customer what their dog is communicating to me. I tell them why I am doing the things I am doing and how it is interpreted by their dog or benefits their dog. I continue to explain the psychology of their dog's behavior during the visit. Oftentimes, this leads to informing or educating the customer on things about their dog that they never knew, which elates them and tells them that their dog will be in the hands of a professional. Then, when they walk in my door, they get to see my organizational process up on my chalkboard on the wall. They get to see how professional we are, how things are set up so that we don't drop the ball. All of this effortlessly displays the benefits that my service offers. And when you do this, it does the same thing. You don't have to do all this extra work. You don't have to be a pushy used car salesman and be talking them into working with you. It just automatically shows them It lets them experience you and what their dog is going to experience. Now, if you're a dog walker, the same thing could happen. I suggest if you're a dog walker and you're meeting somebody for the first time, you're not bringing them into your home for boarding or daycare like I am, then you take them through the process of what you would do if you came there for a dog walk. Make your meet and greets long enough to say, hey, this is how we're going to do things when I get there. I am going to show you exactly what I will do when you're not there. This way, you can see how I handle your dog. You can see how I handle the walk. You can see how I keep your dog safe. You can see how I introduce your dog to other dogs. Maybe you have a dog along with you sometimes on these meet and greets to make sure that dog is getting along with other dogs easily enough. Whatever the case may be, find a way to use those meet and greets so that they get to actually experience what their dog is going to experience when they're with you. I could go on, but I think I've made my point, which is don't just tell your customers the services and things that you provide, like dog walks or baths or basic training or whatever it is, right? All the little things. Yeah, you want to tell them that, but don't just tell them that. Let them actually experience it before revealing your rates. Otherwise, you'll be stuck in a game of price war with the competition, and nobody wins then, including the animals. Think about it. If you continue overworking yourself because you undercharge for your services, how long will it be before you're so tired and stressed out that you make a major mistake at the dog's cost? Because if you're not properly taking care of yourself, if you're not getting the rest that you need on a regular basis, then your mind isn't as sharp, leaving you susceptible to costly mistakes. I truly hope this gives you a fresh perspective on how to announce your rates confidently so that it can go smooth and successfully without losing all of your clients. So until next time, happy tails to you. Hey guys, if you got anything of value out of this episode, I'd really appreciate it if you could pay me with a thumbs up and a subscribe. And if you didn't see the episode before this on how to set the right prices, just click here to watch it now.